This is the Jeddah Tower. 1 kilometer tall, a number no building has ever touched, and when it completes, it will officially become the tallest structure on Earth. But here is the part nobody is talking about. The section that actually wins it that record is a space nobody will ever set foot inside. No apartments, no offices, no observation deck, just hollow steel stretching upward for over 300 meters. And every single one of those meters counts toward the official world record. So the question is simple. Is Jeddah Tower genuinely the world's tallest building, or is it the world's tallest illusion? To understand how a building can legally count 300 meters of empty steel toward a world record, you have to understand one hidden rule. The official gatekeepers who rank the world's skyscrapers don't care about roof height. They don't count usable floors. Their rule is simple. Height is measured to the architectural top. Anything designed to be permanent, even an empty decorative spire, counts toward the record. This is the exact fine print that allowed Malaysia's Petronas Towers to take the crown from Chicago's Willis Tower in 1996. Its decorative spires were built into the original design. Chicago's taller roof didn't count, but nobody wrote that rule imagining a spire of 300 meters, an empty tip taller than the very skyscrapers the rule was originally designed to measure. That is exactly what is about to happen in the Saudi desert. This loophole gave birth to a term, vanity height, the gap between the highest floor anyone can actually use and the very tip of the building, empty air with an official name. And once this trick became legal, the race for the skies turned into a race of pure inflation. Look at the Burj Khalifa, 828 meters tall. Currently the tallest completed structure on Earth, but 244 of those meters, nearly 30% of the entire building, is uninhabitable mechanical space and spire. Nobody lives there. Nobody works there. Take just that empty section, place it on the streets of London or New York. It still ranks as a super tall skyscraper on its own. But the Burj Khalifa at least looks like a building. What came after it didn't bother pretending. Malaysia's Merdeka 118 officially holds the world's #2 spot. China's Shanghai Tower is officially 3rd. But the highest usable floor inside Shanghai Tower sits 50 meters higher than Merdeka's top floor. You can literally sit inside the 3rd tallest building, look out the window, and look down at the roof of the building officially ranked above it. Vanity height had transformed from a design trick into an outright arms race. But as engineers pushed these empty spires higher and higher, they ran into a physical barrier that forced the creators of the Jeddah Tower to confront something nobody had faced before. Every skyscraper eventually fights the same enemy. Not money, not politics, physics. At 1 kilometer high, the primary threat isn't gravity, it's wind. At extreme altitudes, wind stops behaving like a breeze. It becomes a continuous, unpredictable battering ram. As violent air currents hit a vertical surface, they wrap around the edges and form swirling high-pressure columns called vortexes. If a building is too uniform, these vortexes generate violent lateral forces that can literally rip a structure apart from the sides. This is why super tall buildings taper as they rise, constantly breaking the wind's rhythm. Jeddah Tower uses a Y-shaped core, same logic as the Burj Khalifa, but pushed to a limit no building had ever reached before. And it still wasn't enough, because overcoming wind unlocks a second problem: concrete. The higher a concrete structure grows, the heavier it becomes, eventually reaching a point where the building risks crushing its own base under millions of tons of pure weight. And the pressure required to pump wet concrete up a vertical kilometer is so extreme that the pipes themselves start to fail. Engineers hit a hard physical ceiling where normal construction becomes impossible. For Jeddah Tower, that ceiling is floor 167. Up to 167 floor, it will be standard concrete super tall construction. But the moment the structure passes that threshold, everything will change. The pouring of concrete will stop completely. The tower will undergo a radical transition into a pure, lightweight steel skeleton. This is not a creative choice. It is a complete surrender to the laws of physics. Pumping heavy concrete any higher will simply be structurally impossible. As a result, above floor 167, nobody will live, nobody will work, and nobody will visit. The tower will essentially stop being a conventional building and morph into a giant, hollow steel cage. The interior will contain absolutely nothing but a dizzying maze of vertical steel ladders designed for the sole purpose of allowing maintenance crews to climb hundreds of flights of stairs just to change the aircraft warning lights at the summit. That will be 240 stories of climbing for a light bulb. Now look at the estimated numbers that will define this illusion. Engineering models reveal that the Jeddah Tower's empty steel spire will stretch upward for well over 300 meters. To put that into perspective, the entire Eiffel Tower stands at roughly 330 meters. The empty, hollow, uninhabitable tip of this single skyscraper will be the exact same scale as an entire national monument sitting on top of another skyscraper. Yet, thanks to the measurement rules, every single one of those 300 empty meters will be counted toward its historic world record. It will be an engineering structure optimized purely for a future marketing headline. But the relentless pursuit of that headline almost destroyed the project entirely. The most unsettling part of the Jeddah Tower's story isn't its empty spire. It's the fact that for years, it looked like the world's most expensive monument to failure. Construction broke ground in 2013. By late 2017, the concrete structure had climbed past its 60th floor. Then, without warning, the cranes froze. Workers vanished. The site went completely silent. An unfinished concrete skeleton sitting in the desert, going nowhere. The collapse wasn't an engineering failure, it was geopolitical. A sweeping anti-corruption purge inside the kingdom led to the arrest of key billionaires and conglomerate chairmen backing the tower. Contracts frozen, funding dissolved. A building designed to represent Saudi Arabia's future became an uncomfortable symbol of its instability. For nearly 7 years, the tower sat abandoned, a dead dream. Critics pointed to it as proof that humanity had finally overreached. But recently, the cranes moved again. $2 billion, thousands of workers back on site, construction has crossed the 100th floor. The ghost tower is alive, which brings us back to the question nobody wants to answer. When you look at a 300-meter hollow spire built strictly to break a record, the word cheating comes to mind naturally, but engineers have a real defense. At extreme altitude, a hollow steel spire acts as a pressure valve, letting violent winds pass through the structure. Rather than slamming into it flat, it genuinely reduces sway in the floors below. So the spire has a function. Engineers aren't lying, but there is a difference between a 50-meter functional spire and a 300-meter one. Dubai built the Burj Khalifa with no land shortage. They built upward to rewrite their national identity from a quiet port into a global destination, and it worked. Jeddah Tower is the same bet, not a housing solution, a flag planted in the desert sky. But here is what nobody can agree on. Is a flag a building? And if the record belongs to a flag, what exactly are we measuring? When Jeddah Tower finally claims its crown, it will be celebrated as the tallest structure ever built by human hands, but not the most usable, not the most floors, not the highest occupied space. A hollow steel skeleton built within the rules of a loophole will carry the title. Maybe that's fine. Pyramids, cathedrals, monuments nobody lived in, built simply to say, we were here, we reached. Or maybe the record is broken and nobody wants to say it. Jeddah Tower will touch 1 kilometer, but is that a building or just a very expensive number? Drop your answer in the comments. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone who thinks they know everything about skyscrapers. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.